What's up, operators? Welcome back to the Ascended podcast. I'm the host, Caleb Schilke.
I'm Anthony Parra.
This episode is about one thing: resetting the system before it resets you. Today, we're going to be breaking down the quiet trends shaping high-performance men, from burnout before 30 to AI hardware you might wear on your neck, to even why solo walks or different diagnostics that you can do today are the best strategic moves. If you're building income, focus, or longevity in this year, 2025, these are the signals you can't ignore, especially in the crazy world we're in today. So without further ado, I'm not going to reveal our topics before we get too deep, but let's lock in. This is not simply content. This is a weekly prescription to increasing your knowledge and your edge. Further ado, Anthony, let's get into it. The first viral section we're going to be covering today, it's the return of something that we all semi-hate, but some of us have issues with. The pandemic of vaping. So we're going to get into this health shift, which we've already known and experienced before. But data has shown recently that vaping is starting to surge back among young men, especially those in that kind of college age of 21 to 24, with more than 15% regularly using e-cigarettes. So if you're between 21 and 24, that's like a 1 in 7, 1 in 8 chance of you using e-cigarettes very regularly. So what does that tell you, first of all, Anthony? Do you got any comments on that?
I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but I don't know why you would choose that as your nicotine source. Like, I get why people do nicotine. I know there's fairly recent studies and some that are not that fairly recent actually too, that have been known for a while, that say nicotine in and of itself, which by the way is found in a lot of foods you eat, and fruit specifically, it has some positive impacts on cognitive health. And I don't remember I might be confusing this with creatine and memory. There was some study I think I saw that was like nicotine can potentially like help get rid of certain types of tumors that they did in rats. I don't know how, I don't want to give that too much validity. But what I'm saying is I understand why people choose to partake in some form or fashion of nicotine, but like, why vape? Like, that's just like, that's first of all, having it at any time. Like, if you smoke a cigarette, it's not great for you either at all. But you have to go outside and you have to do it. If you smoke a cigar, same thing. But I feel like a vape is like super accessible to anybody. And I don't know that it's great to just have that source of like, let me just get a head rush real quick, anytime I want, any place I want, any flavor I want. I feel like too often and too accessible, just like anything else in this world, is probably not great for kids.
Yeah, and again, like my kind of thing is, if you can't get it on a tree, like not everything comes on a tree, but kind of the same thing, right? If a caveman wouldn't have it, probably not the best for you. And again, I'll confirm what you said. Vapes aren't harmless. They do contain nicotine, which has been shown to impair your brain development, mess with mood regulation, and increase your impulsivity, which is a big thing. And you'll typically see those kind of I forgot what they're called, like pleasure drugs, or those kind of it's not really a gateway. It could be, but it could lead to impulsivity in other areas. So you might eat more when you're having nicotine. You might be more willing to gamble, do more risky things. It's kind of that like degenerate drug, right, that gets you to do worse and worse things at the same time, because it's a good complement to sitting on the couch and watching TV, whatever it's going to be. We're talking just devices made to trap this next generation of people that are supposed to save us. So this trend raises for me a few questions, like, why are we turning back to vapes, especially like when you've seen the trend toward like nicotine pouches and all that? I wonder if it's like stress or peer culture, or maybe just like some alternative to cope with a bigger thing going on. And like, what are we overlooking in the prevention of it? Like, are we not educating people what's going on? They're not regulated. The design of it is just addicting. I don't know what the big factor is. I think it's kind of a combination of all of that.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of things that get popularized that are kind of hard to put an exact definite, this is how they got that way. I assume it's just people see other people doing it, and then you see even more people on the hierarchy of, we'll say, fame or popularity is doing it, and so you want to do it because you want to fit in with that crowd. I know originally that was what was taught to me when I went through health education in grade school. Drugs in general, but vaping in particular, was like a lot of times a peer pressure thing. And so that's what gets a lot of people into it, and then from then on addicted. But I couldn't tell you. I assume maybe it's some sort of, it could be some marketing tactic by the companies that make them, pay people to make advertisements, kind of like anybody else would for content clipping. Same idea, I suppose. Or maybe, they're just, I've never heard of like a vape sponsorship. I just imagine it's got to be something similar to that effect, and the same way we get anybody addicted to anything.
Now, I will say that, like, maybe on behalf of those that do vape or use nicotine, now nicotine does in the short term, what I've read is kind of like very small span of time, right? It'll sharpen your mind and kind of make you dialed in for a little bit. I've seen actually, I think it was like Josh Allen when he was throwing warm-up passes at practice, like popping zins in to do the same kind of thing. And he was pretty alert with that. But at the same time, just like any other drug, you get that for a little bit and then you have to sustain it, which is why these companies make money. Probably why the drug and zins and vapes and all that were invented in the first place, because I know people keep coming back to retain that edge. But I mean, if long term you can't sustain without it, and maybe you have to go off grid or you go camping or somewhere you can't access that, it just strikes at your optimization. I mean, a foggy mind, your unpredictable mood, you're just weak in focus. That's not going to build an empire for you. So are we choosing clarity or are we just choosing convenience and disguising that fact? That's kind of what I want to get at.
Not to mention it can be an expensive habit as well.
And yeah, of course. So let's transition to a different viral point. We can only talk about vapes so much. You guys know the big takeaway though. Try to stay away from it. It's not natural. Sure, it gives you maybe a slight edge, or just it's a very hard habit to break, like sugar or anything else. But I want to open with a different viral piece of news. This is actually a good one because we had a lot of negativity in the last episode. So this is a viral trend that's kind of wise, but also weird in the best way for what you'd see on social media. It's called the silent walking movement on TikTok. So it's just videos, no music, no podcast, just a purposeful device-free stride through parks or city streets, like just kind of third-person view of it. There's no commentary or like hustle. It's just kind of presence. I think a lot of guys in their 20s are starting to get back to simple habits at the same time. You're seeing this kind of counterculture to these more degenerate habits, and select groups of men, probably those that are watching the same podcast, kind of like doing these mental resets. So for me personally, it clears my mind, sharpens my focus, boosts creativity. It doesn't have to be a walk. It can just be quiet time. But what do you think is, do you think that's a power move, or do you think it's more of like a passive retreat? How do you see that?
I think it could be both in certain situations. I think that in a world, AI, technology, computer, like we can't, you and I can't do our day jobs without staring at a screen for 8 to 12 hours. And that's, unless you work a blue collar job, that's kind of that's what you do anyway. So, and even if you do work a blue collar job, you come home, you stare at your TV or your phone. So the average person is getting a ton of screen time. And I bet that the average person's screen time on their iPhone, which doesn't even cover the computer screens at work or their TV, is probably higher than it should be. So I think that regardless of your motivation, power move, or I don't know what you said, something retreat.
Like a passive retreat, yeah.
Regardless of the motive, I think it's good for everybody to either find a hobby or do something as simple as taking a walk without your device. I mean, daily if possible, but at least weekly, to just be somewhere where you can take in your surroundings and think about something instead of having something in front of your face tell you what to think the entire time. You know what I mean? I think that can stifle creativity if that's all you ever do.
I'm gonna make 2 quick points on this. First, your brain needs deep focus to make breakthroughs, and you can use ChatGPT, but when you become dependent on technology like that, as much as, again, that's kind of a focus of us, that's good for helping, kind of chip away at some issues you're having. But your brain is what's making the executive decision at the end of the day, at least still while in this day and age. So a lot of times, usually what I would recommend if you're having trouble getting breakthroughs in your business, put every single device out of the room. Some of them are even shown to have frequencies which can disrupt your brain's process, but sit in silence. At about the 20 to 25 minute mark, it's going to get very uncomfortable because you're not going to know what to do. And don't even look at the screen. Just kind of have a piece of paper, whatever. Brain's going to start relaxing. It's kind of like you've been doing bicep curls for the past like 2 hours straight and you're trying to get your arm to relax. It's not going to do it right away. You got to let it chill out. Some people will meditate first, but that's what creates the plasticity in your brain to actually learn and to discover new things. And so I found walks are a good way to do it. Gives you some exercise. I like walking and talking, walking and thinking. And I think that helps for me just because it kind of takes my body out of the environment. So instead of doing it in my work environment, this is my dedicated space. But also I think there's a lot of people I actually see them as like in battle, like they're the enemy, right? There's people that put distracting things out there. Pornography, social media, news, just bullshit on the internet. And if you don't stay away from it, it's going to distract your brain to not be able to lock in because there's always going to be that side thought or that ping that wants you to come out of it. And so unless you almost literally see them as the enemy trying to attack you from your focus, you're not really going to be able to dial in because you're not going to think it's an actual threat to your discipline. And that's a really hard habit to break, especially when you're not trained on it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I have anything to add to that. I think you said it well.
Again, like Sure, you can call it whatever you want. I think the most productive thing for me is just like there's an enemy out there, regardless. You can call them that or whatever. They can just be a distraction, something to annoy you, but see them as kind of a threat, it as a threat, your phone, whatever, and find a way to win that battle. And that'll start to build your discipline back if you have nothing to work on. Anthony, we're going to talk about AI in a second here, but we're going to go to the economic side first. Let's talk about kind of an economic shift that's also affecting our age range of men. This is the rising interest in like gig type work via platforms like TaskRabbit, Upwork, Fiverr, things like that. So according to TaskRabbit CEO Anya Smith, applications to become taskers have jumped 15 to 20% year over year, which is massive for a company, right? It's big for a stock or anything. It's just showing explosive growth, leading to new waitlists in many cities. What the point I want to make, right, is economic uncertainty is pushing guys to stack multiple income streams. Even if you have a pretty solid job, you want to just set aside that little bit extra, especially with everything going on in the world right now, to have some sort of buffer or safety net. TaskRabbit's specific growth isn't isolated. It's part of a broader movement. So the platform even reports that some taskers are earning over $200,000 a year just from side hustles. I don't know. What do you think is driving this, Anthony? Why do you think we're seeing this like growth of gig level jobs, things like that?
I think it might be twofold, depending on the scene people surround themselves with. In particular, if we're talking young men, because that's kind of our target audience, it has to do with the subject we talked about many times on the podcast, which is that if you're constantly faced with something through social media, in this case being told that you have to set something up, you need to be financially free, you need to have your own business, you need to have your own side hustle, because everybody else is doing it, and because all the Andrew Tates of the world are saying otherwise you're worth nothing, you know.
Yeah.
So I think there's that aspect where that's just what people are faced with all the time. And because it's your algorithm telling you that, like, you assume everybody thinks that way. And so you're going to go ahead and do it. But I think also, I mean, we have to put some credit towards just the state of the economy in general, where it's like prices of groceries I mean, they've come down a little bit, but, you know, in the past year, we'll just say, are higher than they were a year ago. Trending that same pattern for multiple years now. Home prices, mortgages, rent, nothing's really cheap right now. I mean, things are kind of calming down, and everything always ebbs and flows, and we expect that. But I think the current state is that, and the way it's been for a while, people just struggle to make ends meet. And I think that that's kind of a concept that's always existed either way, regardless of the economy, because it's just the way things are. But I imagine it's a combination of one or two of those things, maybe more. I'm not going to pretend I know all the reasons, but it's got to be those in my opinion.
I actually want to go back and like tangent real quick on one quick point that I don't think there's really a good time to bring up. But by the way, like I was in Colorado last week. Obviously you knew that. I was in a different location for last week's podcast. I went to Vasa gym, which usually I work out by myself in my apartment gym. And I didn't realize like how my gains were. Like I thought I was pretty, I was okay, but I had stuff. And then I went to a gym like that and I saw that like 99% of people, right? Like I was lifting like just as much or heavier than most of these people like in there, even though I thought I was kind of alone or isolated. You mentioned the algorithm, and that's an interesting thing because I think that is a driver behind this a lot. And with so many people using social media, what you'll see is like when you go from an isolated environment where you're sitting on your phone and you're seeing everything on the algorithm, your algorithm is tuned for you with people like Andrew Tate or these side hustle gigs. And so you think if you're not doing it, you're the only person that's not doing it. Most other people's algorithms are like cat videos or like random like memes or things like that. You're dialed in, everyone else isn't. So when you work on something, even if you make just a shred of progress, you're doing more than most people because your algorithm has you tricked into thinking that everyone has the same news, but that's not how it works. You're getting your own set of kind of your own echo chamber of things. So if you're actually getting videos like that and you're finding yourself in podcasts like these, you're doing more than most people just being curious about this space. So don't stress yourself out. I do think like you're right in the fact that, it's kind of hard to predict the right source, but I will say that opportunities are out there, and with jobs being more and more uncertain, putting yourself in a position where you have another stream of income is always going to be helpful. With that said, Anthony, this is kind of a good segue to bring up the way people could work with us as a side gig and get involved with our program that we just started.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ascend has just come up with an affiliate program developed by Caleb and I. Basically what it is Ascend, if you've been a listener to this podcast, you might know a little bit about what we do, but AI integration for automation of business tasks. So things like how people handle DMs, how they handle outreach, how they handle closing deals with leads, how they manage basically the things that take individual entrepreneurs so much time out of their days and weeks, it can be very difficult for them to scale over the long term. And so what we've done is we've developed tools that help people do that with AI so they can make deals while they sleep. If you follow Caleb, you'll see all sorts of stuff about exactly what Ascend does. But for the affiliate program, what we've done is we've made a way for people that are interested conduct outreach on our behalf to find people that are in the exact same position as I just described and might be interested in integrating AI into their own workspace. And basically, we're offering a 10% commission off sales from that. So if you're interested in that, there is a forum in our free community. You don't even have to be a member of the digital syndicate to partake in this opportunity, titled Affiliates and Content Clipping. So if you head into the free community, if you're in there live right now, there's and you go to the Learn tab, or Earn and Learn, there's forums about it in there. But basically, it's an opportunity for you guys to conduct outreach on behalf of Ascend and earn pretty solid commissions off that.
Yeah. I mean, let's say, so again, like you get commissions based off sales we close. Let's say we close 1 in 5 sales. So if you send 5 people that you just send a link to and 5 people will book it, which maybe you send 1 or 2 follow-up messages and you're just DMing people when you're bored on the toilet or like in bed or whatever. And just one of those people buys our product, let's say, I don't know, our just starter product, you could maybe earn like a $500 to $800 commission at the most, right? Like on a really top tier product. Or you can just earn like $200 to $300 just kind of passively by sending DMs. And again, this could pay down your mortgage. It could like pay down your student loans. It could save for your own business. It could go into advertising so you can do the same things we're doing. And again, we're teaching you how to do that. So it's kind of a repetitive cyclic system that you can replicate. And we're here to teach you how to do that. Let's get into AI. You did mention that. It's kind of our next topic. And this one's very interesting. OpenAI, once again, they've returned. They made a big acquisition this last week, something called Jony Ive's AI hardware startup. I think that's the name of the company, Jony Ive. And they paid $6.5 billion for it. So I want you to know that Jony Ive designed the actual structure of the iPhone and the Mac computer. They're joining forces with OpenAI to build what they're calling a third core device. So, right, you have your computer, you have your phone. This is like the third option that they think is going to be like the essential iPhone of the future. This is a pocket-sized or wearable AI tool that isn't your typical phone or screen. So I'll read one more thing about it, and then I kind of want to get your reaction. This isn't just merging code and circuits. It's merging product design pedigree with AI innovation. So Sam Altman, if you guys aren't familiar, the CEO of OpenAI, ChatGPT's creator, says the device will let AI feel, quote, as natural and impactful as the birth of the iPhone itself. So we have the smartest software meeting legendary design from Apple. That means something powerful is about to drop that's on the horizon. That might change how information and communication happens, maybe forever. So what do you think about that?
Wow, that's I can't even begin to imagine. I mean, I'm sure you'll tell us more, but first reaction is like this could depending on what you'd say next, determine like how people think moving forward. Like, do people think at all, kind of thing? Like, how easy would it be to just have some sort of question pop up and without having to think through everything, you just tell your device the question and it does it for you? And then how long before we start to just see tasks and tell things, we tell our essential AI device to complete the tasks? I imagine you said it was no screen, and you'll tell us in a second more information about it. But I imagine it's something similar to the development of, like, if you guys remember the original iPods or like the iPod Nano. It's like originally was a small square, had just the circle for changing, what song and volume. Then it had a small square with a screen. Then it was taller. Then it was an iPod. Then it was iPhone. Everybody had. Immediately I start thinking about, like, what does this imply? Second, third, and fourth order effects, and then also going into the future. So I'm really interested to hear about the specifics you have to say about what this product would look like and do.
Yeah, so there's no like finalized design or even like launch concept yet. They're just working very early stages. Again, we're giving you guys some of the freshest information out there, but the rumor suggests it's kind of like a screenless ambient gadget that you kind of maybe wear around your neck, like a necklace, or keep it docked like a modern day Shazam type thing. Also is kind of going to lead to deeper access to AI, which could probably screen our environment, our data, and our lives. Once again, so for me, this raises big questions. Like, I love AI and I love all the functionality of it. Obviously, this is something we focus on to help you guys make more money and to see success. I want to know about privacy and how do we balance innovation with the privacy concern? So how do we avoid letting convenience turn into maybe even surveillance? And are we prepared to trust AI that knows where we are, when we sleep, when we walk, when we work, who we talk to, all of that stuff? Given how little we do actually know. It's kind of like exploring the ocean floor. Like we think we've done all of that, we've seen it all, but in reality, we haven't. And how much we've explored AI is very minimal compared to the total capacity of it because of how limited humans can prompt AI. And so to me, right, it seems great, but I know there'll be effects. Like any medication, there's always side effects. So what are the side effects of this? And I think I'd want to know a little bit more about that before we step a little further.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could only speculate, but man, it'd be so useful, but at the same time, I could just see it being so, I don't want to say detrimental, but I guess it depends on the capabilities. Like, what's it actually doing? What do further models in time? What do they do? How long is it before something like that is incorporated to like Musk's idea of a Neuralink? That would be insane.
That's okay. Yeah. So pros and cons, right? And again, it's kind of like a maybe Cortana system from Halo or like some sort of like like chat GPT that's basically like directed by you and then you don't have to hold your phone up and talk to or text. So that's basically the way to think about whatever this is going to be. But it's going to be in the form of a gadget. They haven't, maybe it's just like a chip that like, magnets to your forehead or something. But again, for me, like as much as we do, it's getting futuristic fast. And I would just say, be careful about like, especially how fast you get integrated with everything, because almost every time in history you've traded convenience for something, it's usually been at the expense of privacy, right? We give up. Now at the airport yesterday, I saw there's an Amazon store that literally just hold your palm up and you don't even need a credit card. It just scans your palm and it's linked to your Amazon account and you walk in and you can just grab whatever you want and it pays it for you through your account. So no payment method necessary. But if you're having to scan your palm, it's clearly collecting your biometrics and your information, knows exactly who you are and what you're doing. You're just giving away another piece of your body to a private company that could then sell that information or use it for surveillance or anything else. So I just want you guys to be careful. Not saying these companies are like the evil cabal or anything. If again, they can be controlled by their shareholders or rich executives or things like that versus having standard regulation practices, which are way behind on coming out. Just make sure for every leap you take, you're making sure you have your footing right.
Yeah, or you've at least thought through what this implies.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll be exciting to hear about when it comes out and just to learn about, depending on, how we actually involve ourselves with it. But we'll see where that goes. I wouldn't be surprised if you heard something about that very soon, especially if they're collabing with Apple, who's very innovative. Let's get into our health and human optimization. So we're going to dive into kind of a reality that's been creeping up on a lot of us. Again, we're targeting men with our podcast, but anybody really is experiencing this. A new study has shown that 25%, so right, 1 in 4, so right, if there were 2 podcasts going on, it'd be one of us, of Americans hit their peak burnout before 30. Like they're done. Like that's their peak of their life before 30. With Gen Z averaging 25 years old before reaching their limit. So for me, that would be next year. I would be peaked out in life because we just can't, it's not because we've reached our potential, but because we can't fathom reaching that anymore because we're so exhausted. And that's wild. Peak mid like stress of life in your mid 20s. And the main drivers are usually related to work and financial pressure at the top of the list, as the study's shown. Young men, especially in our 20s, are in the crosshairs, juggling unstable jobs, again, many side gigs and things like that, rent and the digital grind with AI and this pace of work just seeming to kind of always stay a little bit out of reach for most people. And finally, here's where it cuts deep. It's not just feeling stressed. Burnout has been shown time and time again to reduce your motivation, which is your ability to tune into podcasts. You'd probably be off the podcast by now. Even paying attention to your work, your sharpness, your physical edge in the gym. And it's for life. We're talking about life peaking here. And the irony, we're sprinting towards success only to crash before we ever accelerate. So many of you are motivated, you try it, and then dopamine, vaping, all these other side drugs, right, have limited your ability to get pleasure out of the work and you kind of crash out. I think personally, that's how I would link it. I'm seeing that as kind of a driving factor, but what do you think, Anthony, is going on?
Yeah, I could see that. Man, that's tough to hear that's what the studies have shown. That's such a young age to just be feeling like there's nothing more for you to achieve in your life, especially considering there's lots of people that still do. I mean, we're talking averages here, so obviously there's people on both ends, but yeah, I don't know. I guess I assume it has to do with just exponential rate at which we we do things like you said, you give up something for convenience, or we give up something for living easier. I guess convenience is still the right word, but maybe not even an application to losing security. But think of all that we do because it's comfortable, and think of all that we don't do because it would be uncomfortable. And I think that if you really, the only way for you to combat this would just be to purposely take on things that are challenging for you in some light, physical, mental, spiritual, for your own sake, and not for the sake of the thing in which you gain after doing it. Go to the gym out of principle, not because I mean, maybe you want to lose weight or whatever, and that's an important thing, but maybe that's a bad example. But do things for the sake of doing things and not for the sake of, the external reward. That's kind of the only off the top of my head when we're just bringing this up solution I can think of is it's going to just come down to you. Like there's really, the world is only going to keep getting more and more of a, let's see how easy we can make things for you.
Yeah.
So it's going to come upon you.
I'll tap into kind of that, I guess the Buddhist energy of it, but like existence is like suffering, right? And understanding that. And usually the thing that's going to set you free is going to be the hardest thing to do. But eventually it's a paradox because when you do the hardest things, everything else seems easy then because you're used to the hardest thing. And so it seems like the people that have already primed themselves for hard things are gliding through life because to them, they are gliding in some way. Like they're at least comfortable that they're not experiencing such an uphill battle doing the next hard thing because their body's built the momentum and they built the calluses on their body of doing these difficult tasks that they can keep doing them. And so I would say there's a correlation between life age peak, right, decreasing from like maybe if it was in the 30s to mid 20s now, and the ability for people to do hard things and people to keep their momentum carrying. And I think a lot of people tap out so much faster nowadays because that's what happens, right? You hear the expression like hard times create hard men, soft times create soft men. And so like I think we are in softer times recently because life has gotten good. Now we're slipping into softer times and it's making soft men, which is eventually going to create hard times. And I think we're starting to see that shift between soft men and hard times that is making people uncomfortable because you're not going to survive in that unless you become a hard man again. And so to do that, right, like Anthony said, you have to find some driving factor to keep you behind it. It could be this podcast. It has to be something other than yourself because nothing can hold you accountable. You can't hold yourself accountable at first as easily as somebody else can. Somebody that wants to see you succeed and that will hold you to your word. And the promises we make to other people are greater than the ones we make to ourselves. So find that person, stay in our community. That's the way to do it. You got anything else to add on that or words of wisdom?
I can think of many times in my life when I had an opportunity, big or small, and maybe it was just like an entrance opportunity that would lead to further ones. And for the sake of saying I felt like it was too difficult or would have taken me too much time or would have required me to sacrifice time away from home, I said no. And looking back, I'm like, man, like how cool would it have been to have studied abroad at a different university across the United States or a different university across the world when I had the chance? How cool would it have been to get extra flight hours by joining some program in the school we went to, or jump out of planes? I mean, we're kind of in a unique situation anyways, and that was a big opportunity that I did take advantage of, thankfully. But yeah, you don't want to live in the state of eventually when you're 30, or I mean, I guess you'll feel like you're in your peak if that's when the peak is now. But when you're like 50, looking back and you have kids that are up and gone, and it's like, what have I really accomplished? Did I ever accomplish anything that my 20-year-old self said he wanted to? Don't let that be you. Just if something is weighing on your heart or your mind that or is presented to you as an opportunity, and you weigh out you weigh it out as an option, and maybe it requires some sort of sacrifice. The benefit is probably worth it and larger than the sacrifice would have been, respectively. If that makes sense. Just don't lose out. Is all I'm saying.
I think too, it's a double-edged sword when you're not taking care of yourself. And I want you to like think about this too. If you're addicted to substances, if you're not going to the gym, first of all, maybe you could have the opportunity to still go back to school and study, or maybe jump out of a plane or something later in life, because a lot of times you'll regret not doing it. But if you're in good health and you buy yourself the opportunity later because you locked in, like you can go do that still. You're still old enough, like you can do that. But it's when you like don't take care of yourselves in multiple areas of your life. Like it doesn't even have to be just fitness. If you're mentally unwell too, you can't go like put yourself in a different country because you wouldn't like survive there very easily. If you're confident in yourself and you're building up these like strong habits of being independent and being in good shape, right? then the regret doesn't hurt as much because you at least still have time to do it later. But when you kind of completely isolate yourself and don't do the things that are keeping you accountable in multiple areas, you're not only feeling regret, but you're going to feel more because you're limited in the opportunity to do it in the future. And so, Anthony, I think that's a big plug for being in good shape and being like working with somebody to increase your fitness and keeping the door open too. But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there's one ritual or habit or avenue to place some sort of drive that will always be there no matter what, save some sort of disability or injury. I mean, it'd be your physical fitness. It's also like one of the only things about you can control because it's personal to you. There's only gain to be had from putting time and effort into that avenue.
all right. Well, I guess with that said, we'll talk about in this last section of personal development something that's kind of trending, right? And a way to fix this. There's for people, especially men like 18 to 30 that are maybe going through this. There's this thing called Med-cations, which isn't medication, it's Med-cations. So imagine like booking a vacation that dodges like booze and lazy beach vibes, but instead you go to kind of a luxury retreat focused on bio-optimization, diagnostics, altitude training, cryotherapy, even genome sequencing. This isn't just like spa stuff, and it's also like not insanely expensive. It's kind of just a reset built for high output brains, and it's kind of trending. So in Mexico, right, where again economy is cheaper and you can afford it easily, there's places like SHA Wellness. They're leading the charge. So they have like a rebalance and energize package that includes ozone therapy, blood work, mental coaching, tactical wellness. Their message is that like vacations aren't just a break, they're investments back into your body and kind of that reset. Because I've always thought of a vacation as a reset, but this is actually a true reset where you're not just like trashing your body in that time. What do you think about that?
I love it, man. I know that it's probably a more popular one, at least in the fitness industry, would be stem cell therapy. People that have like major problems with their back or some sort of joint will go and get stem cells. If you don't know what a stem cell is, you have to look it up on your own time, but it's basically your body's ability to heal itself, injected into you at a higher rate than your body would have naturally produced it. And then you spend a lot of time resting afterwards, but then people report coming back from that just feeling amazing. I think if there's anything you can do that like positively impacts your cognitive or physical ability, and it's within your price range and it makes sense for your timeline, like this is what we're talking about with these opportunities. Like, why would you miss that? Why would you, if you're just going to spend this money and going and doing something else, getting trashed with your friends that you could do any other time? Like, why not invest in yourself a little bit? I mean, I've never been personally.
Yeah.
I do have back problems. I've been interested in stem cell therapy for a while, and actually there's some popping up in my hometown from Utah that I'd be interested in checking out. But I think it's a great concept. I understand why it's trending.
Even the GOAT Tony Robbins is kind of backing this. He's like launching his own longevity focused wellness hotels. Like they do like in that one, I think is full body MRIs. They do nutrition coaching, even like recovery chambers. I don't know. So the question really is, are medications the future, do you think, of personal development, or do you think they're just kind of privileged overkill to that problem?
I think probably more the latter than the first. I think that I don't think it'll be the future necessarily, because I don't think that the mainstream public will ever catch on to that and everybody's doing it. I mean, maybe I could see that. You kind of see the same thing with saunas. So that most gyms have a sauna or a steam room now. It's the same concept. And I don't necessarily think that, like, because I condone them, I'm saying that, oh, you should go and get this done. And like, if plan your next vacation around going to what's it called, barometric, something they just put your oxygen in the. I'm not saying do that. But what I'm saying is like, I don't have no problem with it, I guess. I think that there's ways to mitigate health concerns and then address other health concerns that are imminent without necessarily doing that. But this is being a cool opportunity, like the same way you would go to relax on a beach somewhere. Like maybe you go to fix a problem that you've been putting off for a while that's with one of your joints. I don't know. I think it's cool.
Yeah, and again, like it doesn't have to be this crazy. Just honestly, if you take a weekend instead of like one weekend every 2 months, and instead of like just stressing out, maybe just go for a walk and like go hike or something to reset your body. It doesn't have to be an expensive like altitude chamber type thing, right? If you have the money, that's great, but just do something to reset yourself because you are a machine and that machine needs to rest. I've only ever, when I pushed myself too hard, gotten fatigue, and then I got sick and I had to take more time off, and it was like it wasn't great. And so your body is your supercomputer, and it's capable of building an empire and executing a complex system, right? So you got to optimize that. And the people that are doing the best, like they're the ones building personal home saunas and they're doing all this stuff. They're investing back into their bodies first. I see that among everybody that I know that's successful, because they understand that you can't, nothing matters if I can't physically type on a keyboard, if I can't get myself up in the morning. Like if I die tomorrow, my business is basically going to stop running because I'm the one that's having to make decisions on it. And so nothing works unless you do, right?
Right.
Another plug for being in good shape. So
Yeah, I'll say one more thing. As a fitness coach, something people in the fitness industry understand is like there's the concept of rest. People, I think, understand for the most part, but being intentional about resting is a different thing. Like a lot of people just assume, oh, rest day, I'm just not going to go to the gym, but I'll do everything else normal. It's like, if you're resting, you should probably take it as serious as you would a session in the gym, where it's like, I'm going to prepare for my gym session by eating my carbohydrates and protein beforehand. I'm going to prepare by eating my protein shake afterwards. I'm going to make sure I'm hydrated enough throughout the day so that my lift doesn't suck. I'm going to make sure I sleep well the night before. But when it comes to rest day, they're like, I'll cheat on my diet. I'll eat whatever. I just won't go to the gym. Yeah, exactly. But it's like your body needs a rest day because it's screaming for recovery. Like the purpose of a rest day, and then in context for our conversation, a rest weekend or activity would be because your body's burnt out, your mind is burnt out. It needs some sort of outlet to escape its constant everyday grind. And so you got to remember that it's not just about not doing anything. It's more about intentionally doing things that will help you to grow while you recover.
I love the car analogy too. And it's like if you're hitting the gym, right, that's your annual maintenance. If you're eating good, that's your gasoline. But you also need an oil change. And a lot of times that's just like resetting yourself, flushing yourself out, getting enough sleep, and taking time off to really look back and reflect on what you did and kind of re-energize yourself to start. Otherwise, you're going to be running on the same dirty oil and the same bad energy, right? Sometimes even just the break that we talked about, especially before, of taking walks or whatever and coming back gives you like more optimism and a lot more confidence going back in, because you had some time to at least gather your thoughts. It's like when you're playing catch up. When I play catch up at work so much, I feel like I'm not in control of anything, but you need to be in control of your own business. And so that's kind of a good way to do it. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap on episode 7. We're already 7 episodes in. This is crazy. I'm getting ready for almost episode 10. So we've hit it all from all angles today, basically. Dopamine reset, silent walking, the hidden cost of your vape culture, right? Please stop vaping. TaskRabbit, our gig economy, right? Anthony plugged our affiliate program. You guys can make hundreds or thousands of dollars just from your phone if you're even paying attention to this. We're literally, guys, we're putting out one of the best opportunities to make money out there. But these aren't just stories that we brought up. Like, again, these are real and they're signals, and we're picking these for a reason because they actually are important things to care about in today's world. OpenAI's right development, that's going to change the future. And you're hearing about it before any of your friends talk about it, just because you pay attention to this little podcast that hasn't gotten big yet. And you're making the right moves, okay? So you're either reacting to the system, and that's where you miss opportunities to invest, right? You can go invest in OpenAI. You can go invest in these partner technologies because we found them for you and we're shouting them out. Or you're just kind of like playing catch up. And again, that's what creates that stress where you get overwhelmed and you can barely kind of focus on building something real. If this episode shifted your thinking by any means, just lock it in. I don't even care if you subscribe or like this. I just want you to take something and act on it. And again, if you did, right, feel free to follow, feel free to comment something. We'd love to hear more. If you're ready to turn insight into execution, join our digital syndicate, right? It's the best automation blueprints for coaching, consulting, digital product sales. Anthony's working on engaging the community, building our affiliate program from the inside. I'm working on systems and development of AI tools that'll help you grow faster than the competition. And it's just a tight circle of high performance builders that move with precision. Anthony, again, we've mentioned it a few times now, but do you want to personally shout out your own coaching program outside? This is outside of Ascend.
Yeah, absolutely. Outside of Ascend, I run my own personal fitness coaching program. I don't have a website up yet. Still pretty new to the game, but you can follow me on Instagram on pump_para. I originally made it as like a kind of a funny meme account with my friends, just to track my progress. But we're kind of getting traction now, getting better engagement. I'm putting out better content day by day. Just trying to help people that either have no experience in the gym or have some, but they want something more structured, or just don't feel like they get much out of what they do currently. I understand that grind. I've been a person who was originally interested, didn't know where to start. And then I've been, after 7 years, at the point I'm at now, happy with the way I look naturally, of course. And, but anyways, Yeah, quick plug, pump_par on Instagram. Hit me up through DM. Super informal conversation. We can book a call.
And he's all natty, like he said. So
Yeah,
that's
unfortunately.
good. And you know, guys know where to find me at Caleb Schulke. It should be the name on Spotify here. And just obviously follow the Ascended podcast. This isn't just about watching the game or listening to this. If you just listen, right, and you can be as smart as hell, but if you don't act on it and find some way to take action, that's where our community, our free community, or our paid digital syndicate is there to help you, because we take these insights, we tell you what to do next, we give you advice on your own business, and we kind of do regular meetings based on that. So this is the Ascended podcast again, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Whatever you did, let the world feel your presence. And like always, we'll see you next week.